All right, guys, we should be live and good to go. I'm just gonna wait till I hear my audio connection. We should be good to go. We're not gonna have a video today for my face, like no webcam, but regardless, we're gonna go ahead and get into this little tutorial here. So I'm just gonna go ahead and wait till I see everything that is live and we are good to go. Thank you guys so much for your patience today. All right, we are good to go. Thank you guys for your patience. So this is what we're going to be covering today. Again, I'm really sorry I couldn't put the webcam up. For some reason, it's just not registering in OBS. But regardless, this is what we're going to be covering today. So there's a lot of ways to do this. I'm actually using Blender's built-in fluid simulator for this, and this is going to be kind of like a fun little tutorial. The render came out a little bit glitchy because some of the frames got messed up, but regardless, this is kind of the effect we're going for. I do want to show you guys a reference image that I'm using. It's called wine pour, right? Now, this is kind of what we're going for here, is something kind of like this, very similar to this, right? We have this kind of backlit display right here. So I kind of tried to replicate that lighting as well. And I think I did a pretty good job, and I'll show you the lighting setup, but this is kind of the reference we're going for here, right? We kind of have this wine pour from the side, right? We have some velocity with our wine or our liquid, whatever the liquid is that you choose to do. You do not have to choose wine. You can choose anything you like. But I really wanted to kind of replicate this scene here, like to the best of my abilities. And I'm going to show you how we did that. And let's go ahead and get right into it. I actually have a wine glass that I already modeled a while ago for a completely different project. And I used that for this particular shot here. So let's go ahead and let's jump right into it. Now, this is our source file here. I just want to show you guys kind of a side view of what's going on in our wireframe. You can see we have our liquid flowing into our wine glass, and it looks really good. Our resolution that we're using here is about 200, and you can see that the liquid kind of falls out a little bit too. There's a lot of ways to kind of fix that, but if you don't want it to fall out, you can also choose when you want the liquid to stop and start. You can see the liquid looks pretty good for the most part. Again, this is still considered a lower resolution for this type of animation or this type of physics simulation. I would normally go up to 300, maybe even 400 for something like this. However, you're going to be sacrificing a lot of time as well. So I found that this was kind of a good middle ground. Regardless, let's go ahead and let's go ahead and grab the wine glass that I have in another file. So I'm going to go ahead and open up this file that I have here. Now, I modeled this wine glass myself. It's by no means a perfect wine glass. It's kind of made of 3 separate pieces here. I'm just going to go ahead and shift-click everything, copy it to my clipboard. I'm going to open up a completely new file here. I'm going to delete everything and paste in my wine glass. Now, we only need this top part for the actual physics, so I'm going to go ahead and shift-click everything and just parent it to the top. Control P is my shortcut for that. And I'm actually going to turn my screencast keys on so you guys can see, what I'm doing. And I apologize for not having that in the most recent tutorials here. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and make sure that we are framing our selected. There we go. So we can zoom in real nice. And I'm just going to go ahead and center this in our scene. I'm going to go to our side view here. And I'm just going to give this like a little bit of rotation, kind of like it is in our reference. And this is looking pretty good. Now what we need to do is just give this a quick save. That way we can not lose our file here. All right. And I'm going to add in a mesh cube. Okay. I'm going to scale this up nice and big like that. Go to my wireframe view. This is going to be our domain. This is where the fluid simulation is going to take place. Now we'll go over to our physics properties, add a fluid property. We'll click domain. And then for our resolution, I'm going to set this to 200. And I'm going to switch this from gas to liquid. All right. Now, for some reason, this is taking a second. Just give me 1 second. There we go. 200. I'm going to scroll down. For our end frame, I'm going to choose 100. And then instead of replay for our type, I actually want to choose all. All right. And then what we're going to do is Blender will set up a little cache fluid system for us, and it'll actually save all that data to a folder. Now this piece right here, right, this is what we want to be our effector. So I'm going to add a fluid type effector For the collision type, you just choose collision. And then for our surface thickness, I found that 1 is a good value for this. That is a value you're going to have to experiment with, okay? Now let's go ahead and add in something for our fluid flow. Now last time I used a cube, but I'm actually going to use a sphere. It really doesn't matter what you use. However, it will be slightly different depending on what you use because of the way the fluid will actually flow out. So let's add a fluid property to our sphere. We're going to add a flow type, and instead of smoke, we're going to choose liquid, of course. Now, geometry would mean that this just falls, right? It just falls as a liquid sphere. So we're actually going to choose inflow, which means that this is going to flow like a faucet. And then we're going to check mark this initial velocity because we do want our fluid to flow, and it could flow straight down, but I actually want it to be kind of angled like it is in some of these, like kind of like this one right here, where we have this sort of angled look, right? It's coming from the side. So we're going to go ahead and give this a z value of -5. So that means it will flow straight down. And then let's go ahead and take a look at our angles here. I want this to flow in the positive y direction. So I'm going to give it a value of 2 meters a second on the y direction. Now let's give this a quick save. I'm going to go over to my domain. I'm just going to set this to 50 for our resolution. And I'm going to give this a real quick bake. And I just want to make sure our fluid is flowing properly. After we do that, we can bake this with a higher resolution. All right, let's go ahead and see what we have. And we are good to go. So you can see our fluid is flowing. Now it's very low resolution. And the reason we want to test this out, let me go ahead and set my end frame to 100. The reason we want to test this out is we just want to make sure that our fluid is colliding with our wine glass. And it is, it's flowing the direction we want. This is all good. I think I might adjust where the sphere is. Now you'll notice right here, and I know you guys probably caught this, there's a little drop of liquid that kind of seeps out of the glass there. The reason that typically happens is because of the resolution that we're dealing with, right? This is a very low resolution. So let's go ahead and free all, okay? I am going to actually, I'm going to make this go in the negative y direction instead of the positive. So I'm going to do -2, maybe even -3. Let's do one more quick bake, make sure everything looks good. And then when we're ready to go, we're going to raise our resolution and bake again. All right, I'm just going to go ahead and click escape here because I don't need to render this whole or bake this whole thing. Perfect. That is exactly the angle I'm looking for, right? We're looking for this angle where it kind of hits the top of the glass. And this is something you'll need to experiment with. And just to make sure you're doing everything correct, if you go to solid view, you can see that right here we have our fluid flowing into our glass, but it's a very, very low resolution. And if you don't see the solid view of the liquid like I do here, make sure you have this mesh check marked right here. All right, I'm going to click free all. All right, I'm going to go to our side view here. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to raise our resolution up to 200. Now, this is going to take a quick second to bake, so I'm going to click bake all. All right, and we're going to go ahead and let this bake out. Now, like as you guys can see at the bottom, we have the 0%. Right now, it's 1%. This will take a quick second to bake out. So while it does bake out, I'm going to answer any questions you guys have, and I'm also going to pull up this example so you can kind of see what we're going for here. Now again, this is a resolution of 200. You guys can easily, raise that value to 300, 400, whatever you'd like. But keep in mind, the higher that value is, the longer it's going to take to bake out, especially if you don't have the kind of, PC setup that I do, or maybe some of the other streamers do. Unfortunately, you have to invest in that to kind of get those good results. So do we have any current questions while that bakes out? Again, if you guys want to continue watching, of course, we're going to add our lighting. We're going to add our materials. I'm going to talk about some framing for this, some depth of field, things like that, how to render this out as well. But I just want to make sure if you guys do have questions that I go ahead and answer those as well. Someone says, oh, Saturday morning tutorial. Let me get a bowl of cereal. Yep, absolutely. Someone said, hey, hello, how are you? Hopefully everyone's doing well, all 50 people watching. Now, like I said, guys, this does take a while to bake out, even when you have a really nice PC setup, which I do. You can see that we're only on frame 8 right now. So this does take quite some time. Maybe about frame 50, I'll go ahead and see where we're at, because right now, again, like I said, this does take a little while to actually render out. And I want to make sure I make the most use of my time here on the live stream. A couple of things you can do to kind of speed this up is, of course, lower your resolution. And then later you can add a smooth modifier and a subdiv to kind of get the same effect here. We're about frame 11. We're about frame 11 right now. What I think I'm going to do for the purposes of this tutorial is I'm just going to click escape, okay, which is going to kind of break us out of this bake here. And what I want to do is just kind of see where we're at. And then, okay, so we're about here. You can kind of see how much higher of a resolution this is, right, where it's hitting. And let's go to rendered view, or I'm sorry, solid view. Yep, you can clearly see that where it's hitting is much higher res. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to switch to my other project, and I am going to show you guys how this one turned out, because this is the exact same settings, almost the exact same angle. Go ahead and take a look at this. This is the result that you're going to go ahead and get here. Okay, so we have our liquid pouring in. You can see it kind of starts to fall out a little bit as well. But this is the result of a 200 resolution fluid simulation with a Blender's built-in fluid simulator. And this looks really nice. Now I want to go ahead and talk about some of the materials and lighting that I set up here, because it is sort of complex enough where I should kind of discuss, right? Let's go ahead and go into render view here. Now there's a couple of different things going on here. This might look a little silly, but I want to go ahead and break it down. Excuse me. In the background, we kind of have this white background, which is just a plane, right, with an extruded edge and a beveled edge. So we kind of have that infinite background, right, that kind of photo studio backdrop. I actually just duplicated that, and these don't have to be curved the way that they are, but I just duplicated that, and I put a black backdrop on each side, and I want to show you what that does. Let's go into our camera view. The plane on the right kind of gives us this nice dark shadow, right, on our wine glass. I'm going to show you what happens if I unhide that. So now that that's unhidden, you can see it's a lot harder to read the edge of this wine glass. So just adding that black part in on the right really changes the way we read the side of that glass. I'll do the same for the other side. So this is before and after. This is a little more subtle, but you can see we can have some darker areas in here as well. Now you're probably wondering, what kind of lighting am I using in the background and the top? Simply put, the background has a backlit light that's facing this wall, and it's just an area light with a value of 200. And I'll go ahead and hide that. I'll show it again. You can kind of see the difference that you can get here. I can raise this up to 500. And then you have a much more pronounced effect with this lighting through our wine, right? And you can see that it really does look good. Now the wine glass itself is a simple glass BSDF with a value of 1.5 for our IOR, and that's typical for glass. Usually it ranges from 1.45 all the way up to 1.5. Now for our liquid, I actually looked up the exact IOR of wine because I wanted to make sure we got this as accurate as possible. And it's actually 1.34 around that value. Someone actually calculated that out based on the actual refraction of the light and all that good stuff. And then just kind of gave it this kind of dumbed down red value just to make sure that it wasn't too oversaturated with red, right? So that's kind of how we did that. Are we using MantaFlow? Yes, we are using MantaFlow for this, correct. And this does look really nice. You can kind of see we can get this kind of like splashing moment right here. So you can kind of pick the frame that works best for what you want. I really like this frame because we kind of have these small splashes here, right? So again, the lighting's very simple. We have a few area lights. We have some side panels that are blocking the light to kind of get those nice shadowed effects for the exterior outline of our wine glass. We have a camera that's just set up with a nice, let's see what lens size we're using, a nice 100mm lens. And I just basically added an empty inside of our wine glass to kind of get that focal point, right? And I just gave an f-stop of 0.2. And you can kind of see that we can choose where we want to focus within the wine glass depending on where we move that empty. And really, guys, this is quite simple. I'm going to go ahead and provide this file to you as well so you can have it and you can kind of test this out with different values as well. Now, I did not model a wine bottle above because there's really no need to have that. It's just not in the shot. Now, if you wanted to, yes, you could, make that a whole effector in itself. You could have a very realistic fluid flow from that. There's a lot of little tricks you can use to kind of speed up your bake time as well. For example, the whole entire wine glass does not need to be a fluid effector. Just the top of it where the liquid rolls off, that's where you'd want your fluid effector to be. A couple of other things to note here. Let's see, the materials. So yeah, like I said, the materials are just literally glass BSDFs. And then we have a camera setup. other than that, guys, just a few render settings here. I want to go over light paths. So right now, my total light paths are 10. I just want to show you what happens if you don't use enough light paths. For example, let's say I want to get away with 3 and I press enter. Well, look at what happens here. Most of you probably already know what's happening. We're not getting enough light through that glass. So I'm going to slowly raise this up. So you can see now 4, right? We're at 4. We can see through our glass, but we still can't see through our actual wine material. Now we're at 5, 6. Now we're starting to be able to see through that wine material. 7, 8, right? Now we can kind of start to really read that wine, right? However, we'll go ahead and bump this up to 20. Now you can really read everything, right? You're getting that actual good representation of what this should look like. So I just wanted to talk about that because I don't think a lot of people talk about this at all. And then there's this little check mark that I have for fast GI approximation. And that's basically Blender's way of saying, okay, like, let me dumb this down and just give you the best render that I can faster. But let me go ahead and uncheck that. Look at the difference. Hopefully you guys can see the difference on the live stream. We're really losing a lot of that detail by checking that off, right? As soon as we check that box, all of these transparent areas become black because Blender's saying, well, they're pretty dark already. Let me go ahead and just darken them more so it's easier for me to render. But actually, we're losing a lot of detail, right? How can we manage bubbles? That would be something that you could experiment with particle system, but you could also use fluid, what is it called? Flip fluids for that. But I'm not going to currently cover that in this specific tutorial. My PC specs are listed under my Instagram channel, if you're curious. Dude asks for questions and then ignores them and only reads the last one minutes later. Thanks again. Oh, Ryan, I am so sorry that I missed your question. That was not intentional at all. Let's see. What is the most realistic finish resolution? Oh, for the liquid itself, Ryan? Is that what you're asking? Let me go ahead and answer that. Sorry about that. For something like this, I actually don't think this looks terrible, but if you're really looking for like ultra realistic, I've heard of people using like a resolution of 600. But yeah, Ryan, I am so sorry I ignored your question. That was not intentional at all. I was just in the flow, and sometimes when you're doing a tutorial, as we all know, you kind of just are only looking at the screen. I'm not actually looking at the comments as well, so I apologize for that oversight. But yeah, I would say 600 is probably the ideal range for something that's ultra realistic. But again, that's like totally unfeasible to actually bake that out. So using flip fluids is kind of your catch for all of that, right? But flip fluids cost money. So I'm not going to vouch for that at the current moment, just because I want you guys to be able to do this all from scratch in Blender, right? Let's see, am I missing anything else? Why do we add an empty cube for the liquids? I actually did not add an empty cube. I added just a regular cube, and then when you use a domain, it kind of turns into an empty, right? It doesn't have any context. It's just the area that the bake occurs, if that makes sense. And actually, you can't see that cube right now because the cube actually becomes the liquid mesh after you bake that out. So I'm hoping this all makes sense to everybody. The resolution of this currently is set to 200, right? So this is what you get for a 200 level simulation, okay? Again, this took about, so this actual like baking, and this is on my PC, which is a very powerful PC. This took about 20 or 30 minutes to actually bake out. Now, I will mention a couple of things because this is actually really important, and this is my bad for not mentioning this. The other factor, right, is the actual resolution or the mesh density of the object that you're using for your collider, right? So this is our collision effector. Now, there's a lot going on here, right? There's a lot of edges. There's a lot of vertices, right? It's very smooth. However, we could decimate this and dumb this down, and we may very well see that our bake time goes down if we do that, right? If we choose to do that. However, I'm pretty happy with where we're at right now with this. This looks good. Again, I was kind of willing to wait for that. Do want to kind of back this up. I just love these little moments, these little splashes right here, right? And you could get, let me see if I can get a really nice close-up shot of this. Yeah, like this moment right here is even really nice. That's like a really nice moment. And we have a really good, nice zoomed in depth of field shot here where we're getting kind of that blurred background as well. And if you ever really want to get a good idea of what things look like, just turn off your overlays, which is this little button up here as well. Wow, 30 minutes of bake. We can't make an exercise live then. Well, like I said, guys, that's why I just kind of jumped back into this file so you could see the final result, because unfortunately I can't take up that much time on the live stream. I want you guys to be able to actually see what that's going to look like. And that's kind of the hard part about a live stream, is we don't have the time to bake that out. So a lot of the times when you guys are watching a tutorial on Liquid, right? Half the time, you know, it's obviously edited. They're like, we're going to speed this part up. I can't really speed that part up for you guys, but I can show you what the final result looks like, which is this right here. And again, when we play this through, you know, we have these awesome little moments where we have some liquid splashes. I just love the way the liquid's kind of like curling in here like this. And I do want to mention one more thing, and I apologize, I forgot to mention this about the liquid itself. So the liquid itself, turn back on the overlays. The liquid actually has a modifier on it, right? We have this smooth modifier. Now, it's not doing too much, but I'm going to go ahead and turn it off so you can see the difference. This is before, right? We kind of have these jagged edges. And then if you just enable a smooth modifier with a repeat factor of about 8, you can really smooth out this liquid, and you can make it very much more fluid, right? No pun intended, but you can kind of see the difference here. This is before, right? You can kind of see how jagged some of these edges are. And then this is after. Okay, just be careful, because if you overdo this value, you kind of start to lose the volume of the liquid itself, right? So let's go ahead. I'll bump this up to 15, and you can kind of see how we're starting to lose the volume. This is a value of 3, right? And that might be what you like. I found that a value of like 7 or 8 worked pretty well, right? It rounded everything out, and I think this looks really nice. I am pretty genuinely happy with how this turned out. Half of it is the lighting, right, and the materials that are actually carrying our render here. And if we go ahead and take a look again at our wine pour here, let me just go ahead and give a side-by-side comparison. Again, this is kind of like what we're going for, right? Where's my original one? I think it was this one that I was looking at originally. One of these two. Maybe it was this one. Trying to find the original one that I looked at, and I was like, this is exactly what I'm kind of going for here. Kind of something like this, right? And what's cool is now we can go ahead and we can try to match this. So if I go to open image in new tab and I just kind of slide this over a little bit, right? Maybe we can make Blender just a little bit bigger here. I'll go to my color management right here, and I'll actually just go ahead and bump this up to medium high contrast, maybe even high contrast. I'll raise the exposure a little bit, and I think I'll do very high contrast. Turn off my overlays, and then I'll go ahead to my area light in the back. Just make sure I have the right one. And I'll just kind of dumb this down just a little bit. Right now it's 500, but I could do maybe 300. And you can kind of see how we can start to get something that looks pretty decent. We can turn on our denoising and kind of see what we get here. And this actually doesn't look too bad. And then we can do some real-time compositing as well to kind of try to get it as close as possible. But this does look really good in my opinion. Again, a lot of this, right, is lighting. You can just tell right now that, like, look at the bottom here. You see how we have these outlines, these kind of black outlines around our wine glass? This is all possible with planes, right? You just add a plane and you make it the color that you want to reflect on the glass. In fact, you guys see how the bottom of this wine glass here, we don't have that line. So like, where is it? Right here on the bottom, we don't have that line there. In fact, we have a white line instead of a kind of a darker line. So if we wanted that outline, what we could do is we could simply add another plane, right? And I'll just put it right below kind of where the glass is so that it's not in our shot. Right? And I'll just make this a black plane. Now take a look. Look at that. We have that line there now. And if we want it to be even more pronounced, maybe we make the plane slightly bigger. And now you can see we have that line because now we're reflecting the colors that we want on the bottom of the wine glass. Now, I don't really talk about lighting a lot. I mean, I try to, but this is, again, something that we can go over consistently. Noobmaster99 says, your PC specs, please. Again, guys, if you want to check out my PC specs, you can go ahead and check them out on Instagram.com/KennyPhases. And that is where I'll have all of my PC specs under my story highlights. It should literally say PC setup or like PC specs, something like that. But again, I love talking about this because, again, this is kind of like 3 separate pieces here. So we're not having that like visual consistency, right? They have that visual consistency here. If this was all one piece, it would look really nice. But I still think, guys, I think we nailed it. Like, I think this looks really good. And then you can go ahead, right? You can take your wine. You know what? Maybe I want a Sauvignon Blanc. Well, I'll just simply change the color. And now we have a completely different wine color, right? You know what? Maybe we want to do some kind of orange juice. All right, let's go ahead and make this nice and orange. Let's raise that roughness. And now we have like some crazy looking orange juice or blender juice, right? Whatever we want this to be. I love, you know, the idea of kind of like just changing these colors up, and you can simply change the entire composition as well. So I obviously I love this red. I just think this red works really nice for this specific circumstance. But really, guys, the physics part of this isn't too hard. The hardest part of this whole setup is going to actually be the lighting, right? Another thing to consider is the angle itself too. So, right, if you want to have this nice black background, you could do that, but you can't really read the wine against that black background, right? Not as much, at least. So I'm pretty happy with this. That is pretty much the tutorial, guys. We spent a good 28 minutes on that. And now I ask you all, what would you like to see next? I want to go ahead and see some comments in the chat. What do we want to see next? What are you guys jonesing to see? Whoever's heard of that term. What do you really want to see? What do you want to learn about in Blender? What could we explore just for fun? We can make some more simulations. We can pretty much do anything within reason, as long as it is something that is possible within my current skill set. He said Dorito juice. That's correct. That is so funny. But yeah, this right here, guys, I mean, like, I'm very, very pleased with this. We can pick any frame we like, right? This is great. I kind of like this frame. I kind of like when it settles a little bit more and we kind of get this swirly motion. I mean, just imagine the detail that you could actually achieve with a higher res, right? All right, I'm going to go ahead and X out of this. Full screen here. And I want to get some comments. If you guys want to see something, let me know what it is. I do think I still have the Dorito file. Where is that Dorito file? Oh, here it is. Yeah, this is that Dorito file we were working on last time. I kind of like forgot about it for a minute. That's right. We were working on this last time, weren't we? Yeah, this was a fun one. We got pretty far with this too. Like, these Doritos don't look terrible. They're not perfect, but someone said special effects. Okay, special effects. You might have to be a little bit more specific with that, Sheila, but that is a great suggestion. Ryan, how we doing? We still in the chat, my friend? Did we leave? I think Ryan might be gone, guys. He might be out of here. The only problem I'm having with this one is like our displacement. Like, I'm not too happy with the displacement that we have going on here. Question, can we add a color ramp after the bump or before? I forget. Is that possible? Let me see something. Color ramp. No, not color attribute. Color ramp, right? There we go. Like in movies. Well, yeah, I understand, Sheila, but I'm saying, is there any specific special effect you were looking for? I think part of that kind of leads into motion tracking as well, which is kind of a whole different topic. That is definitely something we could revisit, but I'd have to like make sure I have everything prepared. Motion tracking is a very big topic. I'm not an expert by any means in it. I have done some before, but it is very, very involved. Not to say that we can't do it, Sheila, but it is a very extensively involved thing. You know what we can talk about, though? Does anyone want to learn a little bit about some geometry nodes and stuff like that? We kind of did a few geometry nodes related things on here for our Doritos. We have some specs that we've scattered. I want this feature to emit water from a specific part of a mesh vertex group. All right, Sheila, I apologize. Like I said, we can definitely cover that at some point, but we kind of get into a little bit more, right? destruction plus smoke plus particles. Hold on, I want to really quickly address Noob Master 99's thing. Let's see. So you want to emit water from a specific part of a mesh. Okay, okay, so Noob Master, if that's what you want to do, I'm just going to quickly do a quick effect on this. We're going to do a quick liquid real quick just so we can make sure everything's working. Okay, so again, that was just quick liquid under quick effects for you guys that don't know where it is. Right here, quick effects, quick liquid. That's how I got there that quickly. All right, so let's say you do have a very specific object, right? I'm just going to quickly show this because it's actually a really easy thing to show. Let's say you have the monkey, right? And this is your object that you want just part of your mesh to emit. So this is what I would do personally, Noob Master. I would tab into edit mode. I would take, like, let's say it's just this part of the mesh, right, that you want to emit. I would actually Shift D to duplicate it, right? Bring it down. Right click, separate selection. Now you have these two pieces, and then I would just move this back into place, right, wherever it belongs, like on the monkey, and then I would emit from this. Does that make sense? So I don't know if you can target the vertex group. Maybe you can, I just don't know how to. I would just separate the selection of your mesh like this, and then that separate selection, that will actually be your fluid flow source, okay? How can you get a good mango juice material with subsurface scattering, but it wasn't accurate? Have you ever made a title scene in Blender yet? No. He could cry tears? What? Oh my, Suzanne could cry tears? Oh, that's funny. I haven't made a title scene in Blender yet. Subsurface scattering sometimes works. Mango juice material, I would probably need to look at a reference, and you'd probably want to do a custom shader for that. But regardless, let me just go ahead and quickly show you what I mean with this. I'm just going to change the type to all. I'm going to make sure our domain is big enough for our simulation. We are good to go. And then I'm going to go ahead and delete this. I'm going to make this a fluid flow, and we'll just do inflow. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and just bake this out, and we should get a fluid flow from this. Hold on. Why are we not getting a fluid flow? Let me raise the resolution a little bit. All right, we should get a fluid flow from this kind of separated part of Suzanne, and we are not. Why are we not? Hold on, let me just double check. Flow, oh, because we got to change the flow type to liquid. That would make sense. Now let's go ahead and click free all, bake it one more time, and now we should actually have liquid coming from Suzanne here. All right, here we go. Fluid bake canceled, and what? All right, that's very strange. All right, only thing I can think of here is that maybe this isn't considered a real geometry because it is, yeah, flow source mesh. Hold on. Let's try that. That's weird. I've never had that issue. It might be because it's technically just like a flat plane and it doesn't have any actual volume to it. That's my guess as to why that's not working. Let's try now. Yep, that was it. Okay, so there we go. I just learned something new, and I'm happy I learned something new. So there you go. There's your flow source, right, from the kind of object there. You can see we're only baking out so far, but I'll just bake it all the way real quick. So if you have an object that is not technically closed, wow, I never knew what that setting did until now. I got to add that somehow to the course. If it's not a closed mesh, it cannot emit a liquid. However, that little setting is planar or planar, whatever you want to call it. That actually enables your mesh to be able to simulate. And look at that. Now we have our simulation. Sweet. What did that bake out to 30? I mean, there you go. There is your just part of your mesh releasing that liquid. That is kind of what you're looking for right there. And who is that? That was Noob Master, correct? There is your answer to that. This looks pretty cool. That actually doesn't look terrible for, what resolution are we at right now? Oh, we're only at 100, and that doesn't look that bad actually. But there you go. That's how you emit a fluid just from a specific object. Closed mesh or thickness. So so like, let me just So this actual mesh here that's being emitted is from this piece here. Oops, no, do not go into material preview mode. No, thank you. So yeah, this piece right here that we broke off of Suzanne technically isn't like a closed, quote unquote, closed mesh. So that's why we were having issues with that, is because it's not considered a closed mesh. So yeah. Sheila says, I'll have to watch the rest later. You're always on at dinner making time. I'm sorry, Sheila. I apologize. I'm on Eastern Standard Time, so for me it's 11:36 a.m. right now. But yeah. Vertex group flow source option is not available, but this trick works. Thanks for the help. Yep, no problem. Again, like this is just kind of like a simple solution to a maybe a more complex problem, but that's how I would go about doing it. Okay. I'm pretty happy with how that turned out, though. It turned out really, really nice. Very cool. That looks awesome. That actually kind of looks like a semi-realistic like flow. Like normally I feel like I do fluid simulations. They don't always look like mega realistic, but this one actually looks pretty good for the most part. All right, let me see. Your PC is very good, I suspect. Yes, yes, it is. Someone said monkey juice. Oh boy. So let's see. Destruction plus smoke plus particles. Oh boy. You guys are really getting into some complex stuff. I mean, yeah, that's all possible as well. Let me see what other comments we have here. Title sequence, again, that's kind of maybe for another time, but what else is on the topic of liquid? Again, with liquid stuff, there's just so much you can do. Can we mix rigid body with fluid sim? You can. However, it's a little bit more complex. Basically, what you have to do is you have to do your rigid body sim first, and then you have to bake it into a animated, I'm trying to remember because I did this before. You have to like bake it in some way where it's like a stuck mesh state. It's kind of hard to explain, but yes, you can. I'll give you a good example. Let's say let me just delete all this. Let me just add in a mesh cube, okay. Object, quick effects, quick liquid, okay. We have our liquid. All right, so let's say we wanted to have like, you know, a sphere that kind of flies through here, right? A good example, this would just be like you add a cube, right? You go to your side view, scale it down, start it over here. We'll just add a fluid effector for right now. Okay, and I will insert a keyframe. I'll go to frame 30. I'll kind of drag it across. All right, so I don't know if you could tell there, but let me scale this down a little bit. Let me scale down my original liquid domain. All right, you could probably see that. Maybe you couldn't. So let me scale up the cube. Okay, it's not going to let me. Hold on one second. Let me unbake everything. This is why I love fluid physics, but I hate them because they're so like particular about the way you have to be about something. I'm going to scale this up a little bit. I am going to insert a keyframe, go to frame 30, just drag it over here on the y-axis, insert another keyframe. Now we have this collision object, right? And then I'm just going to quickly bake this out. Oops. Okay, it's baking all the way to frame 100. So look, we have our collision object kind of running into everything here. But it's not perfect because the resolution's so low. But you can see this is how we kind of start to get that rigid body type effect. However, with rigid bodies, what you want to do is you can do your rigid body simulation and then you convert that into keyframes. And then whatever object that is, you turn that into a fluid effector. Does that make sense? So yes, it is possible, but there's an extra step and you lose that functionality of being able to customize your rigid body simulation. So right here, I'm just animating a effector. However, if you had, for example, a cube that like falls on the ground, right? Like it falls down, it does whatever it does. You'd have to bake that out into keyframes and then convert that into an effector. All right, someone asked about caustics. Let's go ahead and just run down a quick caustics example here. I'm gonna go ahead and add a plane to my scene. I will scale this up a little bit. I'm just gonna add in a sphere, bring that up. And then what I'm gonna do is go to my rendered view and I will add a light source. right here. All right, there's my light source. I'm gonna make my light source like 1,000, like something ridiculous. I'm gonna add a glass material to this with a low roughness. Make sure everything's shaded smooth. And then under my object settings, under shading, we're gonna click on cast shadow caustics. And then for our plane, we're gonna click on receive shadow caustics. And then the last step is to click on our light source and enable shadow caustics. And now we have caustics. However, they don't really look that good because the sphere itself is just not like, it's just not ideal for this. Let me squish it down a little bit. Now you can kind of see how the caustics are working a little bit more, but let me give you like a more complex object. Of course, you can change the color of this too, but that's how simple it is to enable caustics in Blender. Let me get a cylinder in here. Let me just go to my solid view. Let me get a cylinder, add a bevel. Okay. Let's kind of work with something like this. Convert to mesh and shade smooth. Now I'm just going to give this the same exact material. So I'm just going to copy this material over, delete this, and I'm going to go to my top-down view so you can really see how this works. And watch what happens when we start to like rotate this. Did I shade that smooth? There we go, I did. We're not really getting the caustics I want, but if you go to your light source, you can go to, where is it? Is it spotlight or area light? I forget. No, I think is it point light? I'm trying to remember what I did for this. Yeah, I think I did it right. So what I've normally done for caustics is I'll like take a light source and just duplicate it a couple of times, and you kind of get this kind of wild looking thing like this. But why is this thing's actually kind of acting funky, and I don't know why. Hold on. Let's add Suzanne. Suzanne's always just a good example. Oh, maybe I didn't enable my, I don't think I enabled caustics. Nope, I didn't. Hold on, let's back up. I didn't enable cast shadow caustics. That's why it wasn't working. Okay, that's totally my fault. All right, there we go. Now we have the shadow caustics. So let me go ahead. So I forgot, when you duplicate an object, you need to re-enable your shadow caustics. And yeah, someone said add a wave modifier. So yeah, what you could do is you could actually generate a displacement modifier. But before we do that, let's go ahead and remesh this thing real quick. And the reason we're going to remesh this is because we want this to have more to work with before we add our displacement, right? So I'm going to add in a deform, displace, and then I'll just click new, and then we'll just change this to like maybe clouds or something like that. We'll kind of give it just some slight distortion there. And we should have some wild looking caustics here, and we do. And then one of the things I like to do is lower this IOR to like 1.2. And now you can see from our like top down view, we have these caustics right here. Another thing you can do to kind of increase this intensity is you just kind of like lower the contrast of the background, right? Like you make the background black. And then, like I said, one of the things I like to do is duplicate my light source. So we kind of have this triple effect with our caustics, and give that a second to catch up there. And now we should be able to see these like really, really gorgeous caustic effects here. Let me lower the intensity of this a little bit. 0.05 maybe. There we go. We're getting some weird like artifacts, and I want to just check my light paths here. Caustics are enabled. Yeah, we're good. And there you go. That's kind of like how you get that type of effect. And then you can also take the ground here. You can give it a material, maybe like a darker type of material, so that those caustics like really, really show up. But this is like kind of how you go about getting that caustic effect, right? And this is pretty cool. This looks really good. It is a very slow on your computer, right? It's very slow. And then another thing, like I said, guys, take your point lights, kind of mess around with like the location. You can see like as we mess with this location, we get a completely different like caustic effect. Let me zoom in so you can like really see these caustics kind of coming in here. Is it heavy on rendering? Oh yeah. No, this is extremely heavy on rendering most of the time. I've seen people do some like trickery with getting these caustics to look like this, but that for the most part, like this is kind of what you get. And this looks good. Now, one of the fun things to do here, right, once you have everything set up, simply duplicate your object, all right? And then go ahead and duplicate the material. And we'll just make this one like a nice yellow kind of color, right? Look at that. And then I just want to check my light path settings. Yeah, we're good. How to get more light to like shine through, right? Maybe you want it to be a little bit like more intense. You can click on your light source and of course raise that value. We also have this radius value. So I'm going to go ahead and delete a couple of these light sources here. We have this radius value and I want to go ahead and crank that up. And I want to show you that when you crank that value up, you still get the caustics, but they're a little bit more like faded, right? We have kind of this more like faded effect down here. If you want that really, really harsh look, right, where you're getting those nice crisp lines, just lower this value. And as you start to lower that value, you'll notice you kind of get those almost like angelic type of caustics coming in. So I'll set this to 0.02 for the fall off. And now you can see we have these incredible caustics going on here with our objects. However, you're not getting the full effect, right? So here's what I would do. I would set this one to 0, right? This radius to 0. Duplicate your light source. And then for this radius, I would set it to like 0.5, right? So now you kind of get a mix of both, right? You get those kind of shaded caustics, but you also get those detailed caustics as well. So this is kind of how you start to branch out and kind of extract those colors out of that glass. So yes, it's very heavy on rendering, but you can kind of see like the effects are worth it, right? Like this looks pretty cool. And yeah, you're probably wondering, can you mix colors? You can a little bit. Like I'll show you if I can pop to the, oh my gosh, if I can pop to the other side here. There we go. I will move this object in front of the other one. Oh boy. Let's just hold on to that for a second. Again, this is kind of like where you get, that looks really cool. Wow, I didn't expect that to look so interesting, and I don't really want to move the object. But look at how, look on the left here, where this green is. That green is there because we're getting that yellow shining through that blue, right? And we kind of get this green. Just imagine the really fun, amazing artworks that you could create with these caustics. And it's really not like too complex. I actually think the light source is inside of our cylinder right now, which is why we're getting this kind of like stained glass effect, but it looks pretty darn cool and I'm pretty happy with how this turned out. And this was an accident, right? So this is like an accidental discovery. I didn't think it was going to look like this. Now look really carefully down here. Do we see these kind of pixelated effects here? That part of that is because we don't have like a subdiv on. So we're getting every single little facet of our caustics, right? So if we had a diamond, we'd get like every little tiny facet. So let's try to add a subdiv to this. Wow. So look what happens when we add a subdiv. Look at how much more detailed these lines are. Let's give it a second to kind of render out for a second here. Take a look, and now you can still see the facets, right? Let me bump this up one more level. We're really putting Blender to the test here. So hold on. Look at the caustics that we're getting now. So again, the smoothness of the object and then also the placement of the lights, things like that. But you can kind of see like the caustics we're getting here are pretty darn cool. Is it going to sacrifice the render time? Absolutely it is, but it does look pretty awesome. And look, you can even still see the facets. I'm going to shade this smooth and see if that helps at all. It should have already been shaded smooth. I'm still seeing the facets down here, but again, from a distance, you probably won't see it. Is there an add-on shader that can do caustics really fast? Yeah, there's a few people that have come out with some shaders that work really well. This looks pretty good though. Like, this looks like an underwater type of effect. I almost want to just see what this looks like when it's like blue. Yeah, there's your underwater caustic shader. There you go. And then you animate the displacement and you've got yourself some underwater effects. How cool is that? I mean, that looks pretty awesome. I'm not gonna lie. That is pretty darn cool. And it was kind of, like I said, it was kind of on accident. And then like, oh, you know what? Maybe I want to swap out this clouds with like marble. Now you have a completely different caustic effect, right? Maybe you don't like marble. You want to do a noise texture. Now you got this wild looking jagged effect, right? And maybe that's what you're going for. Maybe it's not. Voronoi, that looks pretty cool. That actually looks like stained glass, right? Because we have these kind of like paneled looks. Now I really do like clouds and distorted noise. Let's see what blend looks like. Whoa, blend is pretty cool. Wow. Look at that. That is just so interesting. All right, let's go back to clouds. This was our original, right? This was our original. I think Corridor Digital did a video on it. Oh, very cool. So you kind of have that caustic effect, right? Whoever mentioned caustic, really good idea because caustics are a lot of fun to just mess around with. I really want to just delete this guy. I want to go into my solid view real quick, duplicate this, right? And I want to make this one yellow. Let's go to our materials. Let's duplicate before we go back into rendered view. And let's just go to rendered view. Wow. Oh man, that's taking a second. Hold on. Whoa. Hold on. Give me a second. I'm going to zoom in so we can really see the true detail coming through here. Interesting. Interesting. Okay. Not loving it. Not loving it. We're breaking some of the caustics over here. So let me move this thing out of the way. And then there's a light source inside one of our objects. Is it this one? I think it is this one. Let me duplicate it, put it inside the other object. Woo! And now we have ourselves a absolute work of art. Now, one of the things that's really cool that I discovered a long time ago in Blender is you see this like really bright spot on our cylinder here, right? That's our point light kind of reflecting off of that. You can actually get rid of that. If you scroll down under your, what is it, object properties, and you go to visibility, I think it's glossy. No, is it glossy or diffuse? It's one of these two. Hold on. Let me look. You can actually turn off these different ray visibilities, and I didn't realize you could do that, and I forget which one it is. I thought it was diffuse or glossy. Oh no, you have to click on the light source itself. Hold on. What is it? Which light source is it? Oh, there's two light sources. Well, anyway, we'll test both of them. If you click on this light source and you disable glossy, I'll just disable it on all of them. I'm almost positive. No, I was wrong. It was originally there was a way to get rid of that. And I don't remember the setting, but regardless, there is a way to get rid of that like very bright spot. What's your Discord link for CG Cookie? I currently don't have the Discord link, but I'm sure CG Cookie does. So, but I'm sorry, I don't know off the top of my head. This looks really cool though. I might have to do a whole thing on caustics because this is actually like a really interesting effect that not a lot of people cover, and maybe I'll cover it because this actually looks really cool. And then maybe what you do, is you have a subject and you kind of zoom in here, right? Like you get this like really nice like side angle. You have your subject down here. You're really zoomed in, right? You're like really up in the caustics right here, and then you kind of have a subject placed in the middle of that. You have some really strong depth of field, and I think there's a lot you could do with this. This is just really, really a fun effect to play with. I think the top-down view is like really where it's at though, like this kind of view right here. Yep. It just looks so much nicer. Could you try it with your glass mode and add a simple mesh that looks like a liquid? Wait, what? My glass what? Mode? Let me see. Oh, model. Are you talking about wine glass? The wine glass model? Oh yeah, absolutely. Let's try that out. Let me. Oh, why do I have? Wait, how did we get multiple planes here? Whoopsies. I don't know how that happened. Wait a second. There we go. Okay. Let me just save this real quick as blah, blah, blah. And then let's open up this guy right here. And let's copy these wine glasses. We'll go back and we will disable these guys here in viewport. Paste in our wine glass. scale it down a little bit, make sure it's centered in our scene. Okay, good. All right, I think we're good to go. So now what we need to do is just apply our materials. Cool. And we'll see how the wine glass looks. Let's go to our rendered view. Let's give it maybe that blue material for now. And we'll just go ahead and enable cast shadow caustic, shade smooth. I'll delete these other light sources and we should have caustics. It looks a little weird, and I think the reason it looks so weird is just because of the material. So hold on. Let me see. We got 1.2. I shaded it smooth. Everything should be working. I mean, we're getting caustics. It just doesn't look nearly as good as like it could. We are getting those caustic effects though. Let me just make sure. I'm going to disable caustics. Yep, so this is without caustics and this is with. So yeah, we are getting caustics, but it just doesn't look as interesting as some of the other things that have like really intense visual parts to them, if that makes sense. Which is like, you know, those really crazy displacements and things like that. I do want to change this to this material. Okay, I want to see something. Where's our light source? Again, like, whoa. That's pretty interesting. So yeah, you kind of have to experiment with it. It doesn't look bad. I mean, the caustics are working. It's just not ideal. Make a Discord, sir. It will help with difficult and technical problems. I actually do have a Discord server. If you go on my my Instagram, I believe it's linked in this story highlights. I'm not too active on it, but there's a lot of people on there that can probably help you out. And yeah, there should be a CG Cookie Discord. I'm almost positive there is. And if there's not, there's also the Blender Discord as well. So yeah, you guys have a lot of options for sure. All right, let me delete this. I'm not in love with the wine glass. I am in love with these pieces here though. Whoa. See, like that's wild. And that's not even like the ideal intensity for these, right? Where's oh yeah, let's put it inside the shape. Whoa. Again, look at what we're getting here. And then you can mix them together like that. I mean, there's just so many cool things you can do with caustics. The wine glass example was a bad example, but this right here is just so enjoyable to try out. And then you take your color, right, and you crush it, you make it like even more intense, and now you have this really crazy clash of blue and yellow. And then you take your point lights, you know, you move them around, kind of see where they work best. I mean, how cool is this? Maybe even turn them the same way, right? So we're getting kind of this really, really heavy contrast. Like this could be a cool YouTube thumbnail here, right? Let me see something. Let's see. I just want to see where everything's placed. I'm going to go to my wireframe view. Yeah, so like this guy should be right here. I'm wondering if we level these out. All right, hold on. RY90. RY90. I'm clicked on the wrong thing. RY90. There we go. Okay, let's zero all these out. Let's make this like perfectly symmetrical. Okay. Or like, you know, as perfect as we can. Okay, we take our light sources here and here. That looks pretty good. And then we'll just bring this up. I'm just zeroing everything out. These guys should be here, and this should be 0, 0. Okay. I just want to see what this looks like right now. Yeah, like that right there might have to be our thumbnail for like the next live stream, right? Let me just set up a camera. I mean, might as well while we're here, right? Let's go ahead and pop into camera view. 100mm lens, and go ahead and raise us up here. There we go. And we'll just do 1920 by 1080. And is everyone still following? Oh yeah, we have 47 people. I guess you guys are really interested in caustics because this is like prime caustics right here. And then I think what I'm missing is I want one of these point lights in the middle. Let me zero this out though, so we get a perfect 0 on the Y for both of these. I don't know if you guys can see this, but I'm just right now I'm just kind of adjusting these manually. Also, yes, I noticed this is not perfect, so let's make it perfect. And if we really want to go there, 0.3, and then we'll do negative 0.3. Oops, there we go. So now they should be perfect. Like each side should be exactly perfect. Oh, wait, what about the z value? Oh yeah, z value is not correct. All right, what's the z value here? We'll do 0.5. And then for this guy, we'll do 0.5. And boom. All right, so now we should have perfect, almost exactly the same caustics on both sides. The only difference is that our displacement modifier is going to throw it off just a little bit. Now, let me actually take our point lights. Let me raise them up a little bit. There we go. Now we're really getting some caustics. All right, last thing I want to try is I want to take one point light, duplicate it, and then just put it dead center. Okay, and then I want to put it right here. All right, let's see what that looks like. Wow, that is pretty cool. Now, what if these overlapped? Should we just try and overlap them just a little bit? And just see, I just want to see if we can get some green in here. We getting any green? I was hoping to see some green. Nah, we're not getting the green that I wanted. Let me try something. Let me just back these up a little bit. Okay, how about this? How about we duplicate this bad boy, right? SX, scale it like real skinny like this. Scale it down. I wonder if we can make this guy green here in the middle. Be a little crazy, but let's try it. Nah, not gonna work. All right, I was happy with it before. Let's go with the before, because I actually think this looks really cool. What do you guys think? Can I get a comment in the chat? Like, do we think this looks cool, or is this like kind of a lame effect? Like, could this be cooler? And yes, look, I know we have these jaggedy things. One of the ways to fix that, did I put a subdiv on both of these? I did. This is without the subdiv. This is with... Just see something. If we bump that up to 3, do we get rid of those? No. Everything's shaded smooth, correct? Yes, it is. And then our point lights, one of the things we need to talk about right now is our point lights and their actual density, or I'm sorry, their radius. Right now, the radius is set to 0. Let's go ahead and put that 0.02. And look at that. Look at how it smooths everything out. Let's do 0.005. And look, now we smooth everything out a little bit. How about 0.008? How about 0.01? Let's try that. All right, we're going over the time limit just a little bit. Looks freaking sweet, to be honest, man. Hey, thank you so much. Let me see. And then this is a radius of 1, right? So this isn't going to work. 0.2, right? We have a radius of 0.2. And that's what you get. 0.05, right? We're starting to get some caustics here. 0.02, now we're really starting to get some caustics here. 0.01. I mean, just playing with these settings is interesting to me. I don't want those black spots. Let me just see something here. This is our external world color, right? So if we turn that up to white, you're not getting as much. Let me just see something. The actual plane that this is sitting on, what color is that? The color is kind of like a darker kind of color here, right? So we want to be careful with what we choose. Roughness, we can turn that all the way up. This doesn't look terrible. I'm not hating it. I'm not hating it. This might have to be our next tutorial, guys. I mean, I already went through it in this, but I think I might go through it again. And then let's double check something, because I think, are these hitting the bottom? No, they're not. We're getting some weird like artifacts though. And we shouldn't be, because our light paths are quite far up. So we shouldn't be getting these like weird black like squigglies. The reason we might be getting those, guys, is because of the world color. I just want to see something real quick. If we go ahead and take an environment texture. Now we're still getting that. Let me just undo that. Where's our light path set? Yeah, we're working with 20. Filter glossy, 0. That shouldn't change anything. Fast GI approximation doesn't actually ruin it. Let me just set this to 100. I'm gonna set all these values. So this is why Blender's wild, but I shouldn't be doing this. I'm setting all the values to 100 just to see kind of what we get here. We're still getting that weird like artifact kind of type deal here. So let me turn down our strength of our displacement to 0.02. And now we're kind of losing some of those weird artifacts. But again, then you lose the caustics as well. So there's kind of a trade-off. Sell it to IKEA. What? Sell it to IKEA? I don't know, man. I don't know if IKEA wants to have anything to do with this. I'm hating that I'm getting that like that strange spot there though. Where's the mid-level? Mid-level. That doesn't do much for us here. Let me try this. Nah, not happening. Why are we getting that? Such a weird thing. All right, so our point light is what? 0 radius on one side and 0.01. Let's see, 0.01. All right, that helps a little bit. That helps a little bit. I still just don't love that it's like, that it looks like that. Now, again, our glass, guys, one thing I want to talk about is the IOR. Right now it's at 1.2. I just want to see what 1.5 looks like. 1.5 looks kind of like that, and then 1.33, which is water, looks like that. So again, like the IOR is going to directly affect, of course, the way this looks. Just want to see what 2 looks like. 2 is obviously going to give us something really wild looking. 1.33 is cool with water. I mean, that looks interesting. I can already see this becoming like a thumbnail, right? Like just ultra awesome caustics in Blender 3D, right? We are a little bit over the time, but to be honest, we're doing okay. What do you guys think? Pretty cool caustics. I mean, I'm enjoying it. I think it looks good. I don't love this little dot though, so I just want to see again with my settings here. We have glossy, diffuse, transmission. Oh, there it is. Transmission. Okay, so see how we got rid of the dot? Just uncheck transmission and you are good to go. And then we don't have that like that little dot in the center, that really like intense white dot that we really don't want because it kind of, in my opinion, destroys the render a little bit. Let's go into color management, high contrast, and bump up the exposure a little bit, maybe medium high contrast. This looks awesome. I love it. I personally love it. All right, one more thing I want to try. I want to go ahead and take our point lights. I just want to like duplicate them just a little bit, kind of bring them up here. And I want to set both of the radiuses to 0. Just want to see what that does. So maybe we can get our details and we can get our kind of like more shaded sides as well. I mean, that's the idea. We want to have our details a little bit. Oh boy. All right, hold on. Let me see something. 1 and 2, right? Scale those in, bring it in on the Y. I want them to be centered. That was the problem. They weren't centered. All right, let's see what this looks like now. Again, we're kind of going crazy here. Top caustics we have here. I animated this, will be sick. Yeah, it will be. Whoa, that looks wild. That is crazy. Wow. I mean, yeah, especially with like, I mean, colored glass. It just looks so interesting, in my opinion. Let's see something. What would happen if I hid one of these cylinders? Wow. Whoa. There you go. All right, better with both. All right, guys, the only thing I got to change, and I didn't even think about this, I'm going to have to make this an orange and not a yellow for Blender. Duh. Why did I not think of that yet? And there we go. Look at that. That looks sick. The ultimate caustics in Blender 3D. Wow, that doesn't even look like it's made in Blender, but it is. A little displacement. Again, the jagged edges are the only thing I'm having a problem with, and that's probably because of the geometry here and the fact that like maybe there's just not enough subdivisions. I don't know. Let me try to just bump that up one more time and see if we can get rid of those like weird jagged edges. I really like don't like those jagged edges, but I'm like partially fearful that it's not possible to get rid of them. See advanced quality. Just uncheck this. No, that doesn't work. I don't really know about, what is the setting? Quality? Let me just bump that up to 4. I don't know why I would want the quality to be anything less. I'm not seeing a big difference. Yeah, I'm not really seeing a big difference. I'm happy with this, guys. All right, it's about 12:11. We've been on here for about an hour. I really hope you guys enjoyed. Again, half of this, more of this was just for like the liquid part of this. And I really do hope you guys enjoyed. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to head off now. I got a few errands to run today, things like that. But this was fun. I'm going to try my best to keep up with these type of live streams. I think this might be the next one, just playing around with Caustics. Hopefully you guys are up for that. I would like a couple comments. You know, what did you guys think of this live stream? What could I do better? What could I do worse? Maybe not what I could do worse, but how did I do? Is there anything that I could improve upon? Was I active enough with your comments? Would you like me to focus more on talking to you guys or focus more on just working and explaining what I'm doing? What's your preference? I'd love to hear what you guys think. Because there's a lot, you know, that can go into these live streams. Sometimes I wonder if I do enough, or sometimes I wonder, do I do too much and do I talk too much? Because sometimes people just prefer to watch the, you know, the process rather than focusing on like talking to me. I mean, some people might enjoy talking to me, but not everyone does. So I want to make sure you guys get the best value that you possibly can out of these live streams. This is just so cool. I love looking at this. I could mess around with Caustics all day. And this just looks so good. And it really is simple, right? We're just using some light sources. We're enabling some settings, and we get this. I kind of want to render this out before we leave here and just kind of see what we can get. All right, we're at 1920 by 1080, 300 samples. Let's render and see what we get. Sometimes when you render Caustics, it takes a second because of it has to load these kernels. Let's see what we get. Oh, not a bad render time. 7 seconds. Oh no, it's not done yet. It's not done yet. My fault. All right, we're again remaining 7:11. It says 7 minutes, but I don't know if it'll actually take that long. Can you do repetitive exercise drills on the main aspects of using Blender? Martin, when you say the main aspects, that can be very like general. So I'd like to know a little bit more about what you mean. The current setup is good for me. I'm learning quite a bit. Okay, that's great. That's great. Happy to hear that. Do I have denoising enabled? This is taking forever. But this already, I mean, this looks great. Like, this isn't even a completed render, and it hasn't denoised yet. Now, one of the things to consider is there is a lot of noise within Caustics, so your patience is going to be required for these things to render out, okay? However, sometimes denoising can actually kill the effect. Like right now, I actually think this looks really good, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to X out of it. I'm actually going to go with 50 samples with no denoising, and I just want to see what this looks like and how long this would take. And then we'll re-enable denoising so I can show you guys what I mean. All right, this one says it's going to take about a minute. Let's see if that's actually true. Like repetitive training tasks, but doing a different object, etc. Martin, I respectfully don't think I fully understand what you're asking about repetitive training tasks. Are you just talking about like the fundamental basics of Blender and just like how to set something up? Knowing how to use all the hotkeys, what each screen box is used for, etc. Oh, okay, yeah, no. So some of that stuff is all in the fundamentals of Blender, which is one thing that I teach, which is physics. However, yeah, I can try to go over like some of the more basic stuff because Blender can be quite an intimidating program. You can see it's glitching out right now at the bottom with the timeline. I don't know why it's doing that. Blender can just like work in mysterious ways. But yeah, I can try to go over more of the basics and stuff like that. A lot of that stuff I don't go over just because like it's already assumed that if you're watching these tutorials, you might already know how to do that. But I can try to go over like what each, you know, section up here is responsible for, like what this part is responsible for. If you want, I can just give you like a quick overview. Sorry, I wasn't sure exactly what you meant the first time, but I can give you like a quick rundown real quick. A lot of this stuff is like you kind of just find out over time, like, is this going to work? Is this not going to work? A lot of people will actually adjust their layouts to work for them. Like right now, like let's say I really wanted to only mess with Caustics. I've set up a default file just for this. Like right now, I could go up here, go to File, where is it? Defaults, and I could click Save Startup File. And what that would do is every time I open up Blender, this is what I would get. Everything I have here is what I would get. My camera would be set up, my objects would be set up, my lighting, everything. That's how you set up a default file. But right now, I'm not going to do that because I actually I just like the default file. I like to start from scratch. Real quick though, Martin, just for you, I'll go over a couple things because I know, like I said, Blender can be quite intimidating. This is the viewport, which is like this main area right here. So like wherever you see this, like kind of all your 3D objects, that's the viewport. So I'm going to switch over to my animation tab. Right here, this is a viewport and this is a viewport. Now the viewport has several options to it. Right now, we're in solid view, which means you can just see your objects as they are, right? There's no shading, there's really not much lighting, there's like a little bit of light source so you can see what's going on. Now, this next one to the left of this, these little options up here, this is how you switch your view. Another easy way to switch your view is by holding Z, and you see you can switch between all of these, right? We have wireframe, solid, material preview, and rendered. Wireframe, if I switch over to wireframe, this is going to allow you to see what your object is like actually made out of. Like, are there vertices? Are there edges? Are there faces? This is how you actually see. Kimmy underscore plays. Did this guy actually show anything useful? Appreciate the kind comment. Again, this is wireframe view. So this is actually how you actually see like what your objects are made of, right? You can kind of see through your objects. And then Martin, you can kind of see the light sources are in here as well. So this is like your main viewport. This is how you view like what your scene can see. And then if you snap to the camera, you click on this little camera icon, it'll snap you into the camera view, okay? And then let's see what else. Right here, this is like how you move around your scene. You can click and drag that. You can also hold the middle mouse wheel to click around. Zooming in and out, you just scroll. You can scroll in and out. Now, if you hold Shift and middle click scroll wheel, you can like pan like this, okay? If you click one of these, you can snap to a particular axis, which is very useful when you're like placing objects and trying to pinpoint where they are. Like right here, I didn't realize, but these are actually not aligned. So this allows us to quickly align things. All right, so that's like your viewport. Now within your viewport, you also have your edit mode. So this is object mode. You have edit mode, object mode, sculpt, vertex paint, weight paint, and texture paint. The two most important, at least in my opinion, are object mode and edit mode. If we go into edit mode, again, you can kind of see like our wireframe. This is where you can like move different vertices and faces and things like that. This is how you like modify your object. Okay, and then pressing tab will toggle between these two. Okay, Martin, I hope this is good. I'm trying to just go over this as quickly as possible, just towards the end here, so you have a rough idea of like how this stuff works. You can click and drag between panels like this to like kind of adjust your view. You can also right click and you can split, right? You can add more panels, you can join areas. This right here at the top, this is your like hierarchy, like where your collection is of all of your objects. You can click on individual objects to select them, or you can select them in your scene. And this is just like where everything is. Like, do you have a camera? Yep, there's a camera. Do you have some cylinders? Yep, there's your cylinders. There's a couple of, there's a plane and some point lights, and you see everything's labeled up here, and you can easily modify these names by just double clicking, and then you can type whatever you want. You can name them however you want. You can also highlight things and put them into new collections as well. I was imagining a series of videos that drill you over and over the same topics, but using different starting object each time. Okay, so like modifying. Okay, yep. Hi, model smaller cube and a bigger cube without upper face like simple pools and pour water between the walls of these two cubes is not working. It's not working. Trying it. Hold on, smaller cube, bigger cube. Oh, okay. I think I know what you're trying to do. Let me guess. You're trying to do... Let me just ask you real quick. Is this what you're trying to do? You have a cube, right? And then you have what? Like something like this with like an inset face like this. And then inset. Is it like this? Like you have a pool and you're trying to fill it? something like that. So like that, and you're trying to fill the pool. Is that what you're trying to do? I'm assuming. I could be totally wrong. But I'll really quickly simulate this for you so you can see how this would work. Beginner drill camp video series kind of thing. Okay, interesting. Now that could be interesting. Anyway, if you're trying to fill this, simply make a box. Make sure that's your domain. Go ahead and click on this. This is going to be our flow source. Click on fluid, flow, change it to liquid, and then click on this guy. Make sure this is fluid, effector. Give it a surface thickness of 1, and then just go ahead and change this to all. And then we'll just do like maybe 50 frames, and we'll bake, and let's just see what we get. Sometimes you're not going to get like a perfect result every single time. Liquid geometry, we'll do inflow instead. Okay, and this is set to the wrong type. Make sure this is set to liquid, and then click bake, and you should be good to go. There we go. Now you can see it's spilling over though. The reason it's spilling over is because it is trying to get out of there. But look, you can see this is really nice. So this is actually really important. See how the liquid isn't quite touching the edge? That's because of our surface thickness, but also because of our resolution. So I'm going to set our surface thickness to 0.3, and then we're going to go ahead and free all. We're going to do a resolution of 100. We're going to click on bake, and now that our resolution is higher and we have our surface thickness set to a lower value, we should get something better here. You would need to shout like a drill sergeant occasionally. Oh my gosh. Learning the hotkeys is a little painful, but it's really worth it because it saves you a lot of time, you said? Yeah, it does. Not my idea for repetitive success would help. Yeah. All right, so let's see kind of where this goes. And then after this, guys, I am going to go ahead and hop offline because we've been streaming for about an hour and a half. Let's go ahead and see where we're at here. All right, fluid bake canceled. So here's our fluid bake. And you can see that now we get something that's like really close to the edge, if not going over the edge here, right? But this looks good. So let's go ahead and just play this back at frame 30. Boom. There you go. There's your liquid filling up. Not the volume of the pool, but fill the walls, like the walls out of water. Oh, okay. So you want to fill the walls of the pool. Okay, I mean, that's also possible as well. The way you would do that is you would go to, well, first of all, let's delete the bake. Okay. You would want to go to your object, and you would want to delete these pieces here. Just go ahead and delete the faces. All right, now you have something like this, right? And you should just be able to now just still use the same technique, but let me go back to wireframe view. But you're gonna want this to be smaller, right? And you want it to kind of be right here so it can fill up the edges. And just make sure that this little cube, right, the resolution is high enough. And let's try this out. I'm not gonna save this, but I'm just gonna bake this. And I just want to see if this is going to work, just to make sure I'm giving you the correct answer. This will be the last thing we do, all right, guys? And thank you guys for being so patient with this whole process. We'll definitely have to do caustics next time. I think caustics are just like really sought after. All right, let's see how this worked out. And it did not work. Why not? Let me see. We're doing inflow, yeah. Our surface thickness is set to what again? I'm going to click on is planar like we did last time and set our surface thickness to 0.2. And then I'm going to bake all again. So remember the thing about Blender, or the thing about the way Blender handles physics simulations like this, is the object needs to be like whole. Like there can't be any holes in it. Does that make sense? So like this should be treated properly now. Let's go ahead and see. And it is not. Why is it not? Yep, we have liquid. I'm just making sure everything's correct. That is really weird. We shouldn't be having this issue right now. Let me see something real quick. Okay, we have that is correct. Here's what I'll do. I will add a solidify modifier to this. Okay. And I'm just going to apply that. And then I want to rebake one more time and see if that works, because I have a weird feeling that's going to work. Sorry guys for the confusion. The reason this is usually happening is just because things are not solid. Stick with CG tutorials are very valuable. One of the best yet underrated channels. CG tutorials, is that a different thing? Yeah, I'm gonna try to. He said yes, he is a good person. Are you talking about me? I hope you're talking about me. And if you are, thank you so much. That's very kind. Weird. We're not getting the result that I'm looking for. In fact, we're not getting any result at all. We have mesh checked. This is our domain. This is our effector. This is our fluid inflow. It's bigger than the resolution, so it should be working. Let me try some. I'm going to try one more thing. This is like kind of the trial and error process of Blender. I'm going to apply my scale for everything. Sometimes that fixes stuff. And let's bake one more time. And let's just see if we can even get flow here at all. He means you. Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm trying my best here. Trying my best. There we go. Okay. One of the problems was I think this cube was too small. But again, look, we're building up on the surface here, which is not what we want. So let me try to raise our resolution to like 150. Let me also click on our collision, and we'll do 0.02 for the surface thickness. We'll make it smaller, and let's see if that helps at all. Again, this is not a guaranteed thing here, but let's try it out and see if it happens to work. This is kind of like one of those things you don't really see a lot, right? Like normally people who do tutorials, it's like perfect every single time for the first time. The reason it's like that, I'm gonna let you in on a little secret. It was rehearsed 100+ times before they did it, right? For example, if I knew I was going to cover this exact topic, I would not just jump straight into it. I would make sure 100% that it was working so that I didn't waste anyone's time. Does that make sense? All right, let's see if this is working now. All right, this is working now. So let me just go to our side view here. Yep, we're good to go. So our fluid is now flowing the proper way. So if we look, let me just play this back. You can see our fluid is flowing in here, and it's going to flow underneath, and we're good to go. So a couple of things that fixed our issue. The first thing is we have a higher resolution. That almost always fixes all issues, right? Our box that is getting the liquid out of it, like the inflow, has to be bigger than the resolution box, which is the particle size. And then another thing is we have to adjust that surface thickness to get the desired result. And you can see now everything's working. And here's how you know it's working, right? You can clearly see the surface thickness right here. So this gap between the liquid and the wall, that is your surface thickness. So we would probably, ideally, want to make that even smaller and then rebake again. Okay, so yeah, that's kind of where you would go with something like that. And then down here, it doesn't look bad, but again, the thickness, you can see this. This is the thickness of the wall. We still have this gap here. This gap should be almost identical to this gap right here, and right here, and right here. Make sense? So again, surface thickness is very important. Resolution is very important, and we should be able to get the desired result now. At least, yeah, we should be able to. And there it is. And this would actually look really good once you apply your smooth modifier and you bake it out. Right? You see we're clearly inside of our space that you want to fill the liquid in. And there you go. That is how you do it. All right, guys. Well, at this particular time, I am going to pull this up as a kind of a preview for what we'll do next time, which is our caustics. But I really do thoroughly hope you guys enjoyed this and got some value out of it. I hope you enjoy these live streams. I have a blast, and I appreciate you guys for sticking around for so long. I know it is a long time, about an hour and a half, but I want you guys to have a great day, have a good weekend. I probably won't see you for a little bit, but I'm going to try to live stream this coming week, maybe even potentially tomorrow, because I'm going back to school on Monday. So I'm a full-time teacher. That's what I do. Clearly, I'm teaching on here, so it kind of is in my background a little bit, but a lot of this stuff I love doing. I'm going to try to fit this into my schedule so I can live stream more for you guys. I really hope you enjoyed this, but I probably won't see you for like, well, I'll probably see you tomorrow. I'll probably won't be able to not live stream tomorrow just because I enjoy it a lot. But yeah, I mean, after that, I'm going back to school, so I'll be a little bit busier. But I hope you guys have a great day. I hope you have a good weekend. Hopefully, I see you tomorrow. And yeah, enjoy your weekend. Go blend. Go have fun with your liquid simulations. And let me know what you guys come up with. If you have any questions, drop them on the comments in this video. I'll try to get back to them, or CG Cookie will. And guys, have a fantastic day. Enjoy your weekend. And I will see you in the next tutorial or the next live stream. Take care.